Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one.
The introduction. In the quiet town of Maplewood, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the air was thick with the scent of pine, where neighbors exchanged greetings and children rode bicycles along sun-dappled streets. Yet beneath this serene facade, a darkness loomed, unnoticed and unacknowledged by most. It was the evening of October 15th, a cool autumn night. When the tranquility was shattered, the local high school varsity football team was preparing for a critical game against their arch rivals. Excitement buzzed through the air, but as cheers erupted from the bleachers, a body lay cold and motionless in the shadows of the nearby woods, a sight that would soon haunt every resident. 17-year-old Emily Carter was a beloved member of the community, known for her kind heart and infectious laughter. Her brightly painted nails and ear-to-ear smile had brought warmth to even the darkest mornings. When Emily failed to return home after attending the game, worry gripped her family. By nightfall, desperate calls echoed in the halls of the Carter home, and the streets became a flurry of flashing lights as police cars swarmed like wasps, agitated by an unseen threat. The town's sense of safety crumbled as officers combed through the forests surrounding Maplewood. Whispers of dread mingled with the rustling leaves. Who would want to harm Emily? Why had she left the safety of the game? Those questions would soon gnaw at the community as they prepared for a spiral into uncertainty that none could foresee. Thus, dawn broke over Maplewood. Hope began to fade, replaced by a chilling realization. This was only the beginning of a harrowing investigation that would expose the hidden sins of a seemingly perfect town. The victim. Emily Carter was the kind of girl who lit up a room, her laughter echoing like music, weaving seamlessly through the fabric of Maplewood's closely knit community. She was a star athlete, leading her cross-country team while balancing part-time work at the local cafe. Beyond her accolades, it was her kindness that left the lasting impression each week. She volunteered at the animal shelter, where she spent afternoons showering neglected pets with affection. Her social media was a mosaic of vibrant snapshots, moments with friends, candid selfies sporting a mischievous grin, and playful videos of her antics with her golden retriever, Max. But behind the bubbly persona lay the pains of adolescence and ache that clawed at Emily's heart. Hidden from the world, the weeks leading up to that fateful night, friends noted a subtle shift. Her laughter didn't ring quite as freely, and her eyes carried a flicker of worry when she received messages late at night. The morning after Emily's disappearance, her parents, Amy and David, sat at the breakfast table, faces drawn, eyes rimmed with red. They couldn't fathom how a night filled with sparkle and excitement could twist into this nightmare. Frantic calls poured into the police station, voicing the fear of every parent in town. What they learned from the friends who had attended the game alongside Emily was unsettling. She had been seen arguing with a classmate near the edge of the parking lot just before leaving. While the officers hung her school photo on their bulletin board, memories of Emily circulated through town, her infectious smile juxtaposed against the growing tension that enveloped Maplewood. She had dreams of studying veterinary medicine, a future that now hung by a fragile thread. As the day wore on, the tight-knit community began to fracture, straining under the weight of uncertainty and fear. Each whispered theory led them deeper into a labyrinth of suspicion, and soon, the innocence of their small town would be irrevocably altered. The crime scene. The sun had barely risen on October 16 when the search party began to coalesce, an amalgamation of concerned neighbors, classmates, and law enforcement officers. The scent of damp earth and pine hung heavy in the air as they converged in the woods just outside of Maplewood, where Emily's last known whereabouts flickered like a specter in their mind. Officers scoured the tangled underbrush, their boots crunching against fallen leaves that whispered secrets of seasons past. Each step felt heavy with dread, anticipation mingling with hope. The scene was serene, yet the tranquility belied the chaos simmering just beneath the surface. It was an area Emily often visited during her runs, a place that felt like home to her. But it held sinister shadows now. Within the hour, the hasty search transformed into something more focused. A rustle behind the thicket caught the attention of Officer Tom Reynolds, who followed his instincts and pressed further into the wood. The air grew colder as he stumbled upon a clearing, where sunlight dappled the forest floor and revealed a harrowing sight: a lifeless figure, a tangle of dark hair surrounding pale skin. "Here, over here," Tom shouted, his voice thick with disbelief. The scene unfolded like a harrowing nightmare. Emily lay sprawled among the foliage, the remnants of her high school cheerleader uniform contrasting sharply with the earthy tones around her. A distinguishing feature, a bracelet, engraved with small hearts, sparkled weakly in the morning light. A cherished gift from her best friend. As the scene was cordoned off, investigators meticulously documented every detail. A visible struggle had taken place, evidenced by broken branches and disturbed soil. But there were no signs of a weapon. As the hours passed, the air grew dense with questions that left everyone disoriented. Who would want to harm Emily? And why? Each piece of evidence became a ripple in a pool of anxiety that fractured the community's trust. By the time the coroner arrived, news of the tragedy spread through Maplewood like wildfire, leaving a trail of shock and sorrow. Frantic messages flared on phones, eyes filled with disbelief. Yet the officers remained stoic. They had a job to do, and with each detail surfacing at the crime scene, it became increasingly evident that bringing justice to Emily would be a complex puzzle, needing resolution before the shadows further engulfed their town. The early investigation. The sun dipped below the horizon on October 16th. A sense of dread enveloped Maplewood. The crime scene revealed to the investigators that this was no arbitrary act. The brutality suggested a deep-seated motive, and then as the first waves of interviews began, a tense energy pulsed through the air. Detective Sarah Devine, an experienced investigator known for her methodical approach, arrived on the scene with a calm demeanor that belied the turmoil inside. She quickly assembled her team, each member tasked with a specific line of inquiry: classmates, teachers, local residents, anyone who might hold a shred of information about Emily's final month. The first interviews were conducted at the high school, where whispers followed Emily's friends like shadows. Her best friend, Lila, sat trembling in a quiet office, tears streaking her makeup. "I don't understand. We were just talking." She got a text and then her voice trailed off, haunted by the void left in Emily's absence. Another witness was Ryan, a fellow student who had been seen arguing with Emily just before she left the game. He claimed it was a petty dispute, a social media comment blown out of proportion. But Detective Devine noted his shifted eyes, the quickened cadence of his speech, and the tension luridly evident in his posture. Did he fear exposure for something larger? As officers combed through Emily's social media interactions, they uncovered fading friendships, whispers of jealousy from peers, and a burgeoning, potentially toxic infatuation from a classmate who had recently become obsessed with. Detective Devine had logged the information carefully. Each connection revealed another thread in the fabric of Emily's life, but it also unveiled the jagged edges of human emotion: fear, envy, desire. House visits followed, where interviews shifted from peers to parents. Many offered the same hollow words about their children's awareness of Emily's social life, but others spoke in hushed tones, revealing incidents of bullying or fractured friendship. The deeper they delved, the murkier the waters became, as simple teenage conflicts transformed under the scrutiny of loss into something far more sinister. As the investigation progressed, Detective Devine realized that every voice held a potential motive, lurking like a specter behind their sorrow. Time was pressing on them. Every second spent unanswered only deepened the shadows in Maple, and with each new piece of the puzzle, the truth seemed both closer and further away, like a reflection in a fractured mirror. The dead ends. A week passed since Emily's lifeless body had been discovered, but for Maplewood, it felt like a year. The sense of loss weighed heavily on every resident's heart. Detective Sarah Devine and her team pored over every piece of evidence. But like a relentless tide, the investigation began to resheet the reeling, nothing but dead ends. The autopsy report arrived, confirming Emily's cause of death: blunt force trauma. The coroner's findings detailed the severity of her injuries, and the reality of it sent a new wave of anger through the community. But with no weapon found at the scene, the question loomed: who had inflicted such violence, and why? Investigators revisited Ryan, the boy who had argued with Emily before she vanished. His alibi was solid, supported by multiple classmates who had stayed behind for the post-game celebration. It left them with nagging frustrations, each story a carefully crafted narrative. Ryan's denial appeared sincere, though his statements about their argument felt more defensive than reflective. Next, Detective Devine turned her gaze to the classmates rumored to be obsessed with Emily. Kevin, a boy known for his unreciprocated affection, suddenly became a focal point. But after interviews with his parents and teachers, a consensus emerged. Kevin was socially awkward, the type who admired from afar rather than engage in hostile acts. Despite his fixation, there was nothing to firmly grasp onto. Further questions painted in shades of uncertainty. Days blurred into evenings. As leads fizzled, one after another, friends spoke in the past tense about Emily, recounting half-remembered moments that brought sorrow churning to the surface. "She was always so happy," Lila would say in broken sentences, the betrayal of her smile twisting into grief. Yet beneath the surface, everyone seemed to be hiding something, a bitter secret, an unsettling truth. The frustration grew palpable within the investigative team. Vera compiled reports, staring at the board strung with photographs and notes, connecting the dots of Emily's life. The board offered little clarity, creating a mosaic of heartache interspersed with suspicion, but it lacked coherence. As the nights grew longer, whispers of conspiracy flared from within the community. The press began to speculate on a code of silence among the teenagers, overlooking the signs of bullying and betrayal. Anxiety stoked the flames of fear, and everyone in Maplewood felt the fire. But still, the investigation faltered. No answers emerged, leaving a gaping wound that begged for healing. With each dead end, the question echoed louder in Detective Devine's mind. How could someone so loved have met such a tragic fate in a town built on trust and familiarity? A chilling realization began to set in. Perhaps the truth lay hidden among those wearing the brightest masks, a reality no one was quite ready to confront. A break in the case. As the golden hues of autumn began to wane, Maplewood lay draped in an air of dread and resignation. The community had mobilized in a desperate effort to find closure. Yet the walls of silence remained thick. Children walked the halls of the high school with more caution, their laughter muffled by the anxiety that hung palpably in the atmosphere. Detective Sarah Devine knew they needed a breakthrough, something to cut through the fog of despair that settled over the investigation. It was on a gray afternoon, the sky threatening rain, that a foundational shift occurred. Officer Reynolds was reviewing surveillance footage from around the high school, images of students milling about, laughter mingling with the sounds of sneakers meeting pavement. As he fast-forwarded through the grainy video from the school's parking lot, a flash caught his eye. There it was, a dark figure lingering near Emily's car during the game. The timestamp showed a few minutes before she left the stadium. Officer Reynolds alerted Detective Devine, excitement pulsing through him like electricity. The figure appeared completely out of place, to body language, tense and watchful. With a quick team meeting, they decided to enhance the video, closely analyzing every second. The figure came into clearer focus, revealing a hoodie and a baseball cap pulled low, obscuring features. But there was one defining detail: an unusual patch shown onto the sleeve. This insignia wasn't commonplace among students, and it ignited hope. A closer look suggested it might belong to a rival school's team, a detail that could lead them to someone with a motive. Detective Devine immediately contacted the local schools. Within hours, they identified a student from Maplewood High who had recently transferred in from the rival school. A boy named Jake, known for his erratic behavior and outbursts of anger. As they pieced together his interactions with Emily, a story emerged of jealousy, rejection, and an obsession that escalated beyond reason. They located Jake at his new home, a modest residence on the outskirts of town. His mother answered the door, her frantic eyes betraying her understanding of the situation. When officers brought him in for questioning, Jake's body language spoke volumes. Nervous fidgeting and avoidance of eye contact painted a picture far more anxious than the confident bravado he had shown to his peers. As the questioning unfolded, Jake initially maintained he didn't know Emily well, but as details about their interactions crept into the conversation, his facade began to crumble. The detectives pushed his boundaries delicately until a crack appeared. He eventually confessed to a confrontation in the parking lot. "She wouldn't give me her number," he stammered, his words rushing as if to outrun the gravity of the situation. Detective Devine recognized the turning point. Soon, the investigation shifted into full gear. Search warrants for Jake's belongings were executed, hoping to find something that could link him to the crime. As the walls of his denial began to teeter, the community held its breath, teetering on the precipice of truth. Would they finally uncover the darkness that had claimed Emily Carter's life? The suspect. The sound of sirens illuminated the evening, cutting through the deepening shadows of Maplewood like a knife. As the investigative team descended on Jake's home, tension coiled tightly in every corner of their minds. Officer Reynolds and Detective Devine stepped inside, bracing themselves for the potential storm that lay ahead. They moved through the small, cluttered space, where remnants of Jake's teenage existence were piled high, disheveled clothes, gaming consoles, posters of bands plastered against the wall. Jake sat in an interrogation room, his initial bravado fading like a mirage. The harsh fluorescent lights hummed above, illuminating his anxious, feature-sweetie palms gripping the edge of the table, shoulders hunched, as if trying to shrink away from the gravity of the accusations surrounding him. "Jake," Detective Devine began, her voice steady but gentle. "We know you were at the game. We also know you and Emily had an argument in the parking lot." He hesitated, the shadows in his eyes dancing with conflicting emotions. "I didn't hurt her," he forced out. But the quiver in his voice launched 1,000 doubts. "We're not here to accuse you without cause," she said, leaning forward. "But you need to understand, manipulation of the truth will only make this worse. The video shows you were near her car. Just tell us what happened." He sighed, his breath shaky as if acknowledging the weight of his words. "She just didn't want to give me a chance. I thought maybe if I confronted her," his voice trailed off, dangling on a precipice of unknown malice. Laying the facts before him felt like peeling back layers of a fragile onion. But each layer revealed a darker revelation. Detective Devine pressed him, and the truth began to ooze out reluctantly as he outlined the events leading to that night. Frustration and feelings of rejection flashed through his recounting, painting a picture of a young man consumed by obsession. "I only wanted to talk. I never meant for it to go that far," he muttered, suddenly burdened by the weight of guilt that punctuated his earlier bravado. But their questioning uncovered more than just a moment of rage, spoke to a deep-seated emotional instability that raised alarm bells for everyone involved. As the hours slipped by, the evidence against him began to mount. Detectives revealed that they had secured his phone records texts, exchanged with Emily, that blurred the lines between infatuation and menace. As he listened to the whispered confessions of his heart, Jake's face fell deeper into despair. "What if I didn't mean to? It was an accident," he keened, tears filling his eyes as the realization crescendoed a desperate attempt to claw back the narrative he had unraveled. It became evident that his need for validation had twisted into a dangerous obsession, creating a web of deceit entangling everyone around him. Detective Devine exchanged looks with Officer Reynolds, a silent acknowledgement of the potential breakthrough. The pieces of the investigation had finally aligned, and their fragile patience was transforming into resolve. Jake was the suspect. But as the pounding heartbeat of their case accelerated, they understood that this would only lead them deeper into the labyrinth of pain woven through the community. Faced with a delicate blend of sympathy and disgust, they prepared to navigate the murky waters of Jake's mental state, all while the shadows of Emily's memory lingered heavy in the air, beckoning for justice. The trial. As the chill of late autumn settled over Maplewood, the community braced itself for the highly anticipated trial of Jake Reynolds, the boy charged with the murder of Emily Carter. The local courthouse, a quaint building with aging bricks and creaking wooden floors, became a hub of activity, buzzing with a mixture of media attention and somber whispers. Emily's friends and strangers filed in, their faces lined with the weight of shared grief and a yearning for justice. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy, tempered by the scent of polished wood and fresh ink from testimony paper. Emily's parents, Amy and David, sat in the front row, visibly shaken yet resolute, They hadn't shied away from sharing their daughter's spirit with the world, a radiant light that had been extinguished far too soon. As the trial rocked back and forth between the prosecution and defense, their anguish was palpable, mirroring the town's collective heartache. The prosecution's opening statement painted a vivid picture of a vibrant young woman who had become a victim of obsession. They detailed the mounting evidence, the surveillance footage, the witness testimonies, and Jake's own confessions that depicted a descent into madness fueled by heartbreak and jealousy. Each word fell on the courtroom like a heavy stone, echoing in the minds of those gathered. Jake's defense attorney, however, argued that the incident was a tragic accident, a culmination of emotional turmoil that spiraled out of control. This young man does not deserve a life sentence for a moment of madness, she implored, her voice laced with compassion, framing Jake as a misguided soul consumed by passion. It was an argument laced with the complexities of adolescence, the struggle for identity, love unrequited, but it didn't resonate with the families, mourning an unfathomable loss. As the days turned into weeks, the courtroom became a stage for raw testimony and emotion. Friends and acquaintances spoke of Emily's kindness, her ambitions, the light she brought into their lives. When Lina ascended the stand, her voice cracked with grief as she recalled their last moments together. "We wanted to go to college together," she whispered. "She bought me matching friendship bracelets. We were supposed to have our whole lives ahead of us." The deep stillness settled over the room's pain, felt almost tangible. And it was clear Emily's absence reverberated through everyone. On the opposing side, Jake's character was dissected, revealing a troubled past filled with isolation and desperate attempts at fitting in. He appeared smaller under the glaring light of scrutiny, a tragic figure layered beneath the weight of emotional imbalance. As witness after witness offered their accounts, the prosecution found a foothold. The defense, struggling to counter with anything substantial, began to feel sustainable cracks beneath their arguments. The courtroom simmered with tension. Emily's supporters felt the sting of every testimony, navigating the grief-stricken landscape once more. Finally, with closing statements looming, emotions ran high as Jake took to the stand, a young man's plea echoing through solemnity. "I never meant for any of this to happen," he said, his voice catchy. "I just wanted her to notice. I didn't want to hurt her. I loved her." It was a heart-wrenching confession, one that left some spectators wondering if he truly understood the weight of those words. The jury retreated to deliberate, and a suffocating silence descended upon the room. Days turned into an anxious stretch of waiting, and the veil of uncertainty blended with the memories of Emily's laughter and light. When the verdict finally returned, it was a rainstorm colliding with the stillness, guilty as charged. The verdict resonated with the gravity of responsibility. Jake would pay for taking the life of a girl whose brightness had once illuminated the lives of so many. As Emily's family broke down in quiet sobs, the tension lifted momentarily. But the shadows remained. No one in Maplewood would soon forget how a love gone awry led to a death that would forever haunt a community trying to reconcile hope with unbearable loss. The aftermath. In the weeks following the trial, Maplewood struggled to find its footing amid the shuddering echoes of grief. The verdict against Jake resonated throughout the community, a reminder of the events that had shattered lives and so. Yet, While the legal proceedings offered a measure of closure to some, it couldn't resolve the collective heartache that now coursed through the streets. The smiles of children played out against a backdrop of loss. Emily's parents, once vibrant members of the community, slipped into a quiet existence defined by their sorrow. They retreated to the sanctuary of their home, surrounded by mementos of their daughter, a scrapbook filled with photographs, her favorite books lying unopened, and the cheerful notes she had written during her kids' art camp summer. Each object held remnants of her playful spirit, but it also became a reminder of what was forever lost. In the wake of the tragedy, Emily's friends banded together to create a memorial fund in her name. They launched initiatives focused on self-esteem, mental health awareness, and the importance of kindness efforts aimed at sparing others from the turbulence of jealousy and obsession that had taken hold of Jake. It became a beacon of hope, a way for his spirit to remain alive through the kindness of others. But the darkness of the incident seeped into the everyday reality of Maplewood. Residents locked their doors earlier, eyes darting warily at unfamiliar faces. The sense of community feeling dangerously fractured. Gossip ignited like wildfire, and whispers of unspoken truths haunted even the sunniest days. Detective Sarah Devine returned to her everyday duties, but the burden of Emily's case lingered like a shadow. Maplewood had been her haven, a place where she connected personally with neighbors. Now, however, she faced the haunting reality of a community changed forever. Each time she visited the high school, the echoes of laughter felt like ghosts floating in the hallways. Imbued with palpable sorrow, she resolved to speak to the students during assemblies, imploring them to embrace vulnerability rather than let their pain go unchecked. In the ensuing months, Emily's memorial fund garnered support from across the region, rapidly evolving into a movement that reached far beyond the confines of Maple. Recognizing the importance of connection, the fund ventured to create platforms for dialogue among adolescents, encouraging authenticity in relationships. Yet old wounds ran deep. For Jake, incarceration brought a sobering reality. His days were a mirror reflecting regret. Surrounded by peers who understood too intimately the consequences of poor choices, while he attempted to navigate the dark confines of his mind within the prison walls, his path was intertwined with the reality he had forged, an existence fraught with guilt and the mournful memory of a life forever lost. As the seasons changed, the crispness of winter settled over Maplewood, blanketing the town in white, yet hearts remained scarred. Conversation shifted to whispers of prevention, the need for open dialogues about mental health and emotional support ringing louder with each passing day. In the absence of Emily's light, the community began to foster a new understanding of connection and responsibility, weaving between the sharp edges of grief into threads of resilience. The echoes of a once vibrant voice, now silenced too soon, guided Maplewood into a new chapter. And while healing was slow, commitment to light the path forward on, filled with the wearers. Here, Mar. A significant step toward reclaiming hope, and in those quiet moments of reflection, Emily remained a symbol of the transformative power of love, urging the community to shine brighter in her memory. Reflection. As winter etched its chill across Maplewood, the community sat at a crossroads, curled beneath the blankets of past sorrow. Turmoil and loss had carved deep lines into their lives, Yet the passage of time whispered of resolution. The memorial fund inspired ways of change, integrating Emily's memory into the very fabric of their small town. Detective Sarah Devine took solace in seeing those seeds blossom. High school students speaking openly at assemblies about mental health, guiding each other away from the perils of silence that had muffled Emily's voice. As she moved through her daily routine, Sarah often reflected on the gravity of that tragic night. How easily attention turned into obsession, and how fragile the strings of human connection could be. Emily remained a steadfast presence in Sarah's thoughts, a reminder of the immense power of kindness and community. Families that had once passed one another without much thought now paused for conversations, fostering a renewed spirit that echoed throughout the town, an effort to ensure no child faced their battles alone.